Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're shuffling the deck and dealing you into a world that's way more complex, honestly, than just a simple card game.
hmm
You've asked us to take a deep dive into the fascinating world of poker. We've looked at a whole range of sources, and let me tell you, it's quite a rabbit hole. Strategy, psychology, just pure human drama.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is just how much more there is to poker than meets the eye,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So our mission today is sort of extracting the most important nuggets. We'll trace its origins, which are actually pretty debated, all the way to, well, modern complexities and even how it's
Yeah.
tackled by AI. It really stretches from dusty saloon tables to, like, supercomputers.
Yeah, that jump is amazing.
Yeah.
So whether you've played a hand yourself or maybe just seen it on TV, you might wonder, what makes this game such a global obsession? How does it manage that balance between, raw chance and some really profound skill? Let's try and unpack that. So maybe starting right at the beginning. At its absolute core, poker is basically a family of comparing card games. Players wager over which hand is best, according to the specific rules of the game they're playing.
That's the foundation, exactly. And, while its earliest known form might have used just 20 cards, today it's almost always the standard 52-card deck.
Almost always, right?
Though you do find variations. Some countries use 32 or 40, even 48 cards sometimes. But the consistent thing, the thread through all of them, is one or more rounds of betting. That's really where the strategy comes alive.
And the betting process itself, it has a pretty distinct rhythm, doesn't it?
It does.
It usually kicks off with some kind of forced bet, like a blind or an ante. Now, a blind, that rotates around the table, right? Forces certain players to put money in before they even see their cards.
Yep, gets the action started.
While an ante is more like a small chip from everyone, just ensures there's always something in the pot to play for.
Right. Creates the initial pot.
Then the action moves clockwise. Each player, in turn, has to either call, which means matching the previous bet to stay in the hand, or fold, basically giving up their cards and any claim to the pot.
Right. You're out.
Or they can raise, they increase the bet, put pressure on the others. A betting round only really wraps up when all the players still in have matched the last bet, or they've all folded out.
Exactly. And this leads to one of two ways a hand can end. The first way, everyone else folds. The last person standing just collects the pot. No need to even show their cards.
Ah, the power of the bluff.
That's where the art of bluffing really shines, yeah.
Yeah.
The second outcome is the showdown. If multiple players make it to the end of the betting, hands are revealed and the best hand wins the pot.
Okay.
But it's crucial to remember, beyond those first forced bets, every chip you put in, that's a voluntary decision.
Or you choose to put it in.
You're doing it either because you think you have a strong hand, positive expected value,
Mhm.
or you're strategically trying to bluff someone else into folding.
So, okay, while a single hand definitely involves a good amount of chance you get the cards you're dealt,
Sure. Luck of the draw.
the long-run outcomes in poker, they seem shaped by this fascinating mix. Probability, sure, but also psychology and even game theory.
Absolutely.
What stands out to me is that a good player isn't just counting cards or odds, they're really counting on understanding human nature, reading people.
You're totally right. I mean, think about it. Probability tells you the odds, right? Chances of hitting that flush, or maybe what the likelihood is your pair of aces, is actually the best hand right now.
Mm-hmm.
But psychology, that tells you whether you believe your opponent's nervous in tech or how convincingly you can pull off your own bluff.
Right, the human element.
And then game theory kind of ties it all together. It offers a mathematical framework for playing optimally, even when you're dealing with all that uncertainty about what cards the other guy's holding. And that bluffing element, that's really a primary feature. It's what truly distinguishes poker from, say, bridge or other card games.
Okay, so that's the nuts and bolts of how a typical hand plays out. But this game, it didn't just appear out of nowhere, did it? Where did poker actually come from? Its origin seems murky.
Yeah, murky is a good word. It's quite debated, actually. Many game scholars point towards maybe the French game Puck or the Iranian game Asnaz as possible early inspirations.
I saw that. Our sources mention R.F. Foster back in 1937 in Foster's Complete Hoyle. He claimed that poker, the early U.S. version with 20 cards, was undoubtedly the Persian game of Asnaz.
Right. That was the thinking for a while. But then, much later in the 1990s, you had gaming historians like David Parlett challenging that specific idea. They suggested it was probably more complex, maybe a blend of influences rather than a single origin.
Interesting. So not a straight line, but what is certain, though?
What we know for sure is poker's surge in popularity happened in the American South, early 19th century. Think gambling riverboats on the Mississippi River around New Orleans, especially during the 1830s. That's where it really started spreading and became, a distinctly American pastime.
We even found this cool anecdote. An English actor, Joe Cowell, describes seeing poker played on a steamboat way back in 1829.
Oh, wow, that early.
Yeah, and he noted the game used just 20 cards. Ace was high, down to 10 lows. Can you imagine a high-stakes game with only 20 cards in the deck? Different dynamic entirely.
Completely different. And from there, poker variants just kept evolving, adapting to different places, different player preferences. Seven-card stud, for instance, that only really emerged mid-19th century.
Like
It was spread quite a bit by the U.S. military, actually. Then it became a real casino staple after World War II, and it got a huge boost in popularity with the World Series of Poker, the WSOP, starting in the 1970s.
Oh, the WSOP. Iconic.
Totally. But then, later decades saw Texas Hold'em and other community card games really start to dominate the scene. They fundamentally changed how the game was played and perceived.
So it went from those riverboats, military camps, kept evolving. But then something happened around the early 2000s that just launched it into the stratosphere. What was that?
Television. Plain and simple. The widespread televising of poker tournaments, especially the WSOP with its whole card cameras, around the turn of the millennium, that just massively increased its visibility and popularity.
Right. Suddenly everyone could see the strategy, the bluffs.
Exactly. And that directly led to what we now call the poker boom, roughly 2003 to 2006. It turned what was still kind of a niche activity into this huge global phenomenon.
That's a fascinating leap, isn't it? From dimly lit back rooms and riverboats to millions watching on TV. Okay, so let's dive a bit deeper into the actual gameplay now. How does a typical hand unfold structurally, and what are the main variations people play?
Sure, so a typical setup usually involves a dealer button. It's a marker that rotates around the table to show who theoretically deals, and more importantly, it determines the betting order. Even if there's a house dealer in a casino, that button still moves.
Gotcha, dictates the flow.
Right. Cards are dealt clockwise, one at a time. And like we said, there are usually forced bets and ante-yield blinds to get things going. Depending on the specific variant you're playing, cards might be dealt face up or face down or a mix.
Okay.
And after that initial deal, you go into betting rounds. There can be several of these.
And between these rounds, that's when hands develop, right? You might get more cards dealt, or in some games, you can even replace cards you already have.
Exactly. And all the chips bet, of course, they get gathered into that central pot.
The prize everyone's shooting for.
Precisely. And if it gets to the end, if more than one player is left after the final betting round, you have the showdown. That's where any previously hidden cards are revealed and evaluated.
And the best hand takes the pot.
The player with the best five-card combination, according to that specific game's rules, wins the pot. And it's important to note, only the best five cards count, even if a variant gives you more cards to work with, like in seven-card stud or Omaha.
Okay, best five. And our sources mention there are, 10 different standard kinds of poker hands? From just a high card up to a royal flush?
That's right, a standard hierarchy.
So with all these variations out there, how do we usually group them? Our sources point to four main families of poker variants. They seem to be organized mostly by how the cards are dealt and how the betting works.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Each family really changes how information gets revealed, and that totally shifts the betting dynamics.
So first up, we have straight poker.
Straight poker is considered the oldest type. Basically, a complete hand is dealt to each player right at the start, and then there's usually just one round of betting. It's very direct.
Less room for development, more about your starting hand.
Exactly. Heavy focus on initial hand strength and making quick decisions. Games like Primero or maybe three-card Brag fall into this category.
Okay. Then there's stud poker. How's that different?
In stud poker, cards are dealt in stages, often called streets. You get some cards, then a betting round, then maybe another card, another betting round, and so on.
Ah, so the hand gets revealed bit by bit.
Right. It creates suspense and allows for more complex strategy because information slowly becomes public as face-up cards appear. Seven-card stud is probably the most popular stud game today. You end up with 3 private face-down cards and 4 public face-up cards, and you make your best 5-card hand from those 7.
Okay, that makes sense. The third family is draw poker.
Draw poker, like the classic 5-card draw everyone imagines from old movies, is all about being able to discard and replace cards.
Right, trying to improve your hand?
Yep. You get a complete hand dealt face down first. Then there's initial betting round. After that, players can choose to discard some cards, usually up to 3, sometimes more, and get replacements from the deck. Then comes a second, final betting round.
So that adds another layer of strategy deciding what to discard.
Huge emphasis on that, yeah. And on reading what your opponents might be drawing to, plus bluffing after the draw.
And finally, the fourth main family, community card poker, sometimes called flop poker.
This is actually a variation of stud poker, but with a really important twist. Players get an incomplete hand of private face-down cards. These are called hole cards.
Okay.
And then a number of face-up community cards are dealt to the center of the table. These community cards are shared by everyone. Everyone can use them in combination with their own hole cards to make their best hand.
Ah, so everyone's looking at some of the same cards.
Exactly. It creates this shared battleground. You know some of what your opponents might have based on the community cards, which could lead to really complex reads and, honestly, sometimes explosive pots. Texas Hold'em and Omaha are the giants in this family. Hugely popular.
Right. Hold'em is everywhere now.
It really is. And beyond just the game types, the betting structure itself dramatically changes the strategy too. The 3 most common structures you'll encounter are fixed limit, pot limit, and no limit.
Okay, break those down for us. Fixed limit.
Fixed limit means the amounts you can bet or raise are standardized. They're set as specific increments. For example, in a $2-$4 limit game, the bets and raises might be $2 in the early rounds and $4 in the later rounds.
So you can't just suddenly bet huge amounts.
Exactly. It controls the escalation. This often leads to a game focused more on playing mathematically sound hands, making disciplined folds, and extracting value incrementally. Less wild swings, maybe.
Okay. And then pot limit and no limit. They sound like they really turn up the heat.
Oh, absolutely. With pot limit poker, a player can bet or raise any amount up to the total size of the current pot. That includes all the money already in the pot, plus all the bets on the table from the current round, including the amount needed to call.
So the bets can get big, fast.
Very quickly, especially in multi-way pots. And then there's the big one, no-limit poker. Here, a player can bet their entire stack of chips, everything they have in front of them, at any point when it's their turn to act.
Wow, that changes everything.
It really does. The psychological element becomes absolutely paramount. A single huge bet can win the pot right there or cost you everything. It's high-stakes decision-making. And if a player faces a bet, they can't fully match with their chips. They can go all in.
Ah, the famous all-in.
Yeah, they put whatever chips they have left into the pot. They can still win the portion of the pot they contributed to, creating side pots if other players have more chips and continue betting.
It's also interesting thinking about winning. Not every poker game is strictly about getting the highest ranking hand, is it?
That's a great point. While typical poker awards the pot to the highest hand, there are definitely variations. You have lowball games where the goal is to make the lowest possible ranked hand. That completely flips traditional hand evaluation on its head.
Like trying to get ace to 5 low.
Exactly, like Raz or deuce to 7 triple draw. And then you have high-low split games, often played using stud or Omaha rules. In these games, the pot is actually divided. Half goes to the best high hand, and half goes to the best qualifying low hand.
So you're often playing for 2 different goals at the same time. That sounds really complex.
It adds a whole other dimension, yeah. You have to decide if you're aiming for the high half, the low half, or maybe trying to scoop the whole pot by winning both.
And beyond traditional poker games, the hand rankings pop up elsewhere too, right?
They do. It's worth mentioning games that use poker hand rankings but play very differently. Video poker is a big one. That's usually a single-player game against the machine, sort of like a slot machine, typically based on 5-card draw.
Right, you see those in casinos all the time.
Yeah. Then there's, strip poker, which just uses basic poker betting mechanics for other stakes. And games like Acey-Deucey or Red Dog Poker. That's usually a casino banking game where you bet against the house. They deal 2 cards, and you bet on whether a third card will fall between their values.
Okay.
Plus, many casinos offer house-banked table games like 3-card poker or pag-out poker, which, again, borrow those familiar poker hand rankings, but pit you directly against the dealer with specific rules.
So, given this incredible evolution from, a simple riverboat game to this complex mix of math, psychology, endless variations, it's maybe no surprise that poker became this ultimate challenge for artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
So let's shift gears and talk about that cutting edge, AI playing poker.
Yeah, this is a truly fascinating frontier. For years, researchers, particularly from places like the University of Alberta, Carnegie Mellon, the University of Auckland too, they've been developing these really sophisticated computer poker players. They've been pushing the boundaries of what AI can actually master in games of imperfect information, which poker definitely is.
Unlike chess or Go, where everything's visible.
Precisely. In poker, you don't know your opponent's cards. That hidden information makes it vastly harder for AI. But there was a significant breakthrough reported back in January 2015 in the journal Science. It kind of blew a lot of minds.
What was it?
A group of researchers, mostly from the University of Alberta, announced they had essentially weakly solved heads-up limit. Texas. Hold'em.
Weakly solved. What does that mean? And they used a poker bot named Cepheus.
Yeah, Cepheus was the program. Weakly solved is a technical term from game theory. It means they found a strategy that, over a huge number of games, is mathematically guaranteed not to lose against any possible opponent strategy.
Guaranteed not to lose. Why?
Well, more accurately, guaranteed not to lose by more than a statistically insignificant amount. The authors stated Cepheus would lose, at most, 0.0001 big blinds per game on average against its toughest possible opponent.
0.001 big blinds. That's practically nothing in poker terms.
It's incredibly small, almost negligible. They concluded that its strategy is so close to optimal that, and this is a direct quote basically, it can't be beaten with statistical significance within a lifetime of human poker playing.
Okay, hold on. Can't be beaten with statistical significance within a lifetime. That sounds final. It makes you wonder then, what does that really mean for human players? Are we effectively solved too?
It's a profound question.
Yeah, what does it truly mean for a game like poker, which has this element of chance, this human element of bluffing? What does it mean for it to be solved by an AI? What are the implications?
Well, weakly solved specifically applies to that format. 2 players, heads up, fixed betting limits. It doesn't mean Cepheus plays every single hand perfectly or wins every time. Luck still exists in the short term.
Okay, so it's about the long, long run.
Exactly. It means its long-term average performance is essentially perfect against any strategy. It found the game theory optimal or near-optimal solution for that specific poker format. For human players, it doesn't mean humans can't beat other humans or even have winning sessions against an AI like Cepheus due to short-term variance.
Right.
But it means that the theoretical ceiling of perfect play has been reached by the machine in that context. What it does for us is allows us to study that near-perfect strategy. It reveals optimal lines, optimal frequencies for betting or bluffing that maybe human intuition hadn't fully grasped.
So it's like a perfect textbook to learn from.
In a way, yes. It highlights the incredible strategic depth hidden even in a seemingly simpler format like limit hold'em. And it really forces us to think about the limits of human intuition versus pure, cold, mathematical optimization.
This deep dive has really unpacked a lot, hasn't it? We've gone from poker's hazy origins, the simple card game on riverboats, all the way through its complex variants, the layers of strategy, the psychology, and now this mind-bending intersection with artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. And if you sort of connect this to the bigger picture, you see poker isn't just about cards and chips. It's really a profound study in human strategy and our ability to adapt.
Yeah.
It's a game that truly evolves as our understanding of it deepens.
Yeah.
You could say it's a powerful microcosm of human decision-making itself. Blending math, reading people, calculated risks. It's all in there, every single hand.
So thinking back on everything we've covered, what really stands out to you after this deep dive? For me, maybe it's just that idea that a game that seems so defined by chance on the surface actually holds these incredibly deep wells of strategy and human insight.
Yeah, that's huge. And maybe something for you, the listener, to consider is this. Think about how those core principles, probability, psychology, game theory, which are so critical in poker, how they might actually apply to strategic thinking in other parts of your life.
Like in business or just everyday choices.
Exactly. From negotiating a deal to making a tough personal decision. How much of what we navigate every day is, well, kind of like poker, balancing the known odds, the calculable risks, with that unpredictable, unknown human element. It's something to think about.